The sky above Virelia burned with a dull red haze, the remnants of a world that had once thrived with beauty and power. Now jagged ruins rose like broken teeth from the ground, and the air smelled faintly of ash and decay. Among the rubble, a lone figure moved carefully, stepping over collapsed walls and shattered glass. She was tall, elegant, and unlike any human, her skin shimmered with a pale silver tone that caught the dying sunlight. But despite her beauty, there was a weight to her that made her seem fragile, almost invisible, as if the world had already dismissed her entirely. Her name was Lyra, and she had been abandoned by her own people. Once a member of Virelia's noble houses, she had tried to stop a betrayal that would have thrown the empire into chaos. But in the end she had failed. Her family had chosen power over justice, and she had been marked as the one responsible. Now the symbol of disgrace glowed faintly on her neck, a permanent reminder that she was an outcast. She moved through the ruined city carefully, her sharp eyes scanning the shadows. Every sound made her heart race. The wind whistling through broken walls, the faint clatter of debris. She was not safe, not yet. The Empire's patrols were still searching for her, and if they found her, they would erase her without hesitation. Lyra's mind raced as she considered her limited options. She could hide in the wreckage for a while, but eventually she would run out of food, water, and hope. A sudden noise made her freeze. There, just beyond the crumbled doorway of what had once been a grand hall, a human figure appeared. He moved with a careful confidence, scanning the ruins with sharp eyes and a steady hand on the controls of a small hovering craft. Humans were rare on Virelia, and she knew they often came seeking salvage, unaware of the danger that still lingered here. For a moment, Lyra considered retreating, vanishing into the shadows as she had so many times before, but something in the way the human moved, the careful precision in his steps, gave her a spark of hope. Perhaps he could help her. Wait, she called, her voice trembling. Humans often didn't understand Virelian speech, but she hoped he could make out the desperation in her tone. The human paused and turned toward her. His dark eyes scanned her quickly, assessing whether she was a threat. He was older than she expected, with a worn face and hands that had clearly seen hard work. He didn't lower his weapon, but didn't raise it either. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said, her voice steadying as she stepped into the open. "Please, I need your help." The human's brow furrowed. "Help? From me?" His voice carried a hint of caution, but also curiosity. "Yes," she said, taking a step closer, though she kept her distance. "I have nowhere else to go. If you leave me here, I will die." The human studied her for a long moment and then sighed. "I don't know if I should trust you." "I understand," she replied. "But I have no choice. If you take me with you, I promise I will do nothing to harm you." He hesitated, glancing around at the ruins. "You're Virelian," he said finally. "The Empire is still hunting you, isn't it?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, they believe I betrayed my family. They want me gone, dead." She swallowed hard, her eyes flicking to the ground. "I am worthless to them. But maybe I can be useful to you." The human looked at her skeptically. "Useful how?" "I can help you navigate this world," she said quietly. "I know the ruins, the dangers, the patrols. I know where to find what you seek. Let me serve you, let me be yours in a way. Not because I want to, but because I have no other choice." For a moment, the human said nothing. He watched her carefully, noting the desperation, the fear, the raw truth in her eyes. Then he made a decision. "I won't call you a slave," he said. "You're not mine, but I will take you with me until we find a safe place. If you try anything, I won't hesitate." Lyra's eyes widened. Relief and gratitude flooded her face. "Thank you," she whispered. "I will not disappoint you." He nodded and without another word gestured for her to follow him to his hovering craft. As they moved, Lyra kept her gaze forward, trying not to tremble. Every step felt heavy, but for the first time in months she felt a spark of hope. She wasn't alone. Inside the craft, the human, whose name was Evan, set the controls and prepared for takeoff. Lyra watched, fascinated by the technology. It was crude compared to Virelian standards, but functional. The engines hummed to life, and the craft lifted smoothly into the sky, leaving the ruined city behind. As they flew through the thin, ash-laden atmosphere, Lyra finally spoke. "You may wonder why I begged you, why I offered myself. It is not common for Virelians to submit to humans, but I had no choice. My name is a curse, my home is gone, and my future, I do not see it." Evan glanced at her, curiosity and concern mixed in his expression. "Why should I help you? You don't even know me." I know enough, she said softly. I know that humans can be brave in ways my people are not. You came here to a dead world knowing it could be dangerous. That courage, that is rare. And perhaps it is what I need. Evan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied the horizon, the red haze of the dying sun painting the clouds in streaks of fire. You're lucky, he said finally. If the Empire had found you before I did, you wouldn't be here. Lyra's heart ached at the thought. I cannot go back, she said. Not ever. I would be hunted, executed. There is nothing left for me there. The craft shuddered as they passed through a turbulent pocket of air. Evan's hands moved over the controls with practiced skill, keeping them steady. Then we move forward, he said. No going back. You stick with me. You survive. For hours they flew through the ghostly remains of Virelia. Evan navigated carefully, avoiding patrols and the worst of the unstable terrain. Lyra stayed close, her hands folded in her lap, watching him with quiet admiration. She had spent so long hiding, alone and scared, that the simple act of being protected felt almost miraculous. As night fell, the stars began to appear, faint points of light through the thin atmosphere. Lyra leaned against the wall of the craft, her gaze distant. Evan, she said quietly, do humans always protect those weaker than themselves? Evan glanced at her. Not always, but some do. I guess I'm one of those. She nodded slowly, the corners of her mouth twitching in the ghost of a smile. Then perhaps all is not lost. Perhaps there is hope even for someone like me. They were silent for a long time, the hum of the engines filling the void. Lyra thought about her past, her family, the betrayal and the empire that had forsaken her. And for the first time in months she allowed herself to imagine a future where she might be free, not as a servant, not as a fugitive, but as someone who could choose her own path. Suddenly, the alarm on the craft beeped sharply. Evan's hands flew to the controls. Imperial patrols, he muttered. They've picked up our signature. We need to move fast. Lyra's heart leapt. Can we escape? Evan's eyes were calm, though focused. We'll have to take a risk. There's a worm field not far from here. It's unstable, but if we go through it, we can slip past their sensors. It's dangerous, but it's our only chance. She nodded, gripping the edge of her seat. I trust you. The craft dove toward the worm field, engines straining as the air twisted around them. Lyra held on tightly as the stars outside stretched into streaks of light, the world bending and folding around them. She could feel the danger in every vibration, the risk in every turn. But Evan's steady hands guided them through the chaos. And then, just as suddenly as it began, they emerged. The craft floated in the calm darkness of space beyond the worm field, the patrols left far behind. Lyra exhaled, a shaky laugh escaping her lips. We made it? Evan glanced at her, a rare smile tugging at his lips. Yeah, we made it. For the first time since her exile began, Lyra felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in months. Safety. Not absolute, not permanent, but enough to make her believe that maybe, just maybe, a human could change the fate of an abandoned Virelian. And for Evan, as he piloted the craft through the silent stars, he realized that saving her was no longer just an act of mercy. It was a test of courage, and he intended to see it through no matter the cost. The stars stretched endlessly around them, cold and silent as Evan's craft drifted further from Virelia. The worm field had delivered them into uncharted space, a quiet place where no one could follow immediately. Lyra watched the shifting constellations through the cockpit window, her mind heavy with thoughts she had long tried to suppress. Her past, her exile, her family's betrayal, all of it felt both distant and painfully close. Yet now, with Evan beside her, she realized she had survived against impossible odds. You should rest, Evan said quietly, his eyes still scanning the navigation panel. We have time before we reach Kalos 9. Lyra shook her head. I cannot rest yet. I need to think. I have survived this long, but for what? What happens once we reach safety? Evan glanced at her, his expression serious. Safety isn't just about surviving. It's about choosing what comes next. You can't just exist, Lyra, you have to live. She swallowed hard, the words cutting deep but true. Living. I forgot what that feels like. For a long time, silence filled the cockpit. Only the hum of the engines marked the passage of time. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice quieter than before. Do humans ever forgive those who have been abandoned or rejected? Evan's gaze held hers, steady and unwavering. Some do. Forgiveness isn't easy. But it's possible. And it's often the first step to moving forward. Lyra's heart ached at the thought. She had spent so long carrying shame that she had forgotten what it meant to be seen without judgment. For the first time, she felt someone looking at her not as a disgrace or a fugitive, but as a person. The craft shuddered as they neared the neutral station Kilos 9. Evan adjusted the course, careful to avoid the main docking corridors. Knowing that word of a human carrying a Varelian exile might attract attention, "We stay off the main channels," he said. "We cannot risk bounty hunters or Imperial agents picking us up." "Not yet." Lyra nodded, her hands gripping the edge of her seat. "I understand. But if they come?" Her voice faltered. "If they come for me, I cannot run forever." "You don't have to," Evan said firmly. "We'll face them together. That's the only way this ends." The station appeared through the viewport, a sprawling structure of metal and glass, its lights flickering against the darkness of space. Shuttles moved in and out of docking bays, and the faint hum of life inside the station promised temporary safety. Evan guided the craft to a small, unused bay, where the automated doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, the station smelled of recycled air and machinery. People moved quickly, some human, some alien, each absorbed in their own tasks. Lyra followed Evan quietly, her eyes wide as she took in the diversity and chaos. Here, she thought, there was a place for someone like her. Or perhaps, finally, she could make a place for herself. Evan led her to a secluded room he had arranged for them, a small space with minimal furnishings but enough privacy to rest and plan. Lyra sank onto the bed, exhausted from the tension and travel. For a moment, she allowed herself to relax, the first time in months. "You've been through a lot," Evan said, sitting across from her. "It's not over yet, but you survived. That counts for something." Lyra's eyes filled with a mixture of gratitude and guilt. I wanted to protect myself, to disappear. But now I feel responsible for you too. You've risked everything for me, and I... She trailed off, unable to find the right words. "You don't have to say anything," Evan replied gently. "Actions matter more than words. Right now, you being alive is enough." Days passed as they prepared for the next step. Lyra revealed the location of a hidden memory core, data that proved her innocence and exposed the corruption behind her exile. Evan worked with her to transmit the data to sympathetic factions and neutral networks. Every step of the way they faced the risk of being discovered, but Lyra's knowledge and Evan's skill kept them one step ahead. Word spread quickly. Across Varelia, whispers of the human hiding a Varelian exile began to circulate. Imperial agents, thinking they had an easy target, underestimated the pair. Lyra, once seen as weak and powerless, now played a crucial role in turning the tide. But the Empire was relentless. A small squad of agents infiltrated Kalos 9, attempting to capture Lyra before the transmission could reach the wider networks. Evan detected them just in time. With precision and calm, he fought to keep them at bay using both strategy and skill. Lyra worked alongside him, overriding station systems to create obstacles, sealing doors and sending misleading signals. Their cooperation was seamless, a growing trust that neither had expected to find in each other. During the confrontation, Evan was struck by a plasma bolt while shielding Lyra. She screamed, fear and determination flooding her senses. She rushed to him, dragging him to cover while keeping the agents at bay. "You can't die!" she shouted. "Not now." "We're so close." Evan's breathing was shallow, but he managed a weak smile. "Don't worry about me. Worry about finishing this." Lyra nodded, determination hardening in her chest. She accessed the station's main transmitter, sending the memory data across the Empire. Screens in every major system lit up with evidence of her innocence and the corruption of the leaders who had exiled her. Lyra's voice, steady and clear, accompanied the transmission, declaring the truth of her actions and the betrayal she had endured. Across the Empire, reactions were immediate. Commands were questioned, agents recalled, and the leaders who had sought to erase her were forced into retreat. Lyra's name, once a curse, began to shine as a symbol of courage and truth. In the aftermath, Evan lay recovering from his injuries, Lyra beside him. For the first time, she knelt not in desperation or fear, but in gratitude and respect. "You never owned me," she said softly. "You freed me, Evan, not just from danger, but from myself." Evan's eyes opened slightly, a faint smile forming. "Guess humanity still has a few good habits left." he murmured, his hand brushing against hers. The station was alive with activity, but for them, a quiet moment had settled. They had survived the Empire's pursuit, exposed the truth, and discovered a bond neither had expected. Lyra realized that she was no longer a fugitive or a symbol of disgrace. She was free to choose, free to live, and free to stand beside someone who had shown her courage, compassion, and trust. As they prepared to leave Kalos 9 and continue their journey through the stars, Lyra took her place at the co-pilot station beside Evan. Together they navigated the craft into open space, leaving behind the shadows of Virelia and stepping toward a future of their own making. The stars stretched ahead, endless and bright, and for the first time in her life, Lyra felt a sense of belonging. Not as a servant, not as an exile, but as someone who had survived, who had fought, and who had found hope in the heart of a human. Evan glanced at her, eyes reflecting the starlight. "Where to next?" Lyra smiled, a mixture of determination and relief. "Anywhere the stars take us. But this time, together." And as the craft disappeared into the black expanse, they left behind a world of betrayal and exile, moving toward a future defined not by fear or shame but by courage, trust, and the unbreakable bond forged between a human and the alien beauty he had saved.